Fact 1. That chainsaw was 100% real. The single scariest prop in the movie just wasn't a prop at all. Leatherface's chainsaw was fully operational, and in several scenes, the chain was still attached and spinning. Actor Gunnar Hansen had to get dangerously close to actors without turning the set into a real-life crime scene. He often had to stop the blade mere inches from someone's body, while still looking completely unhinged. And remember, this was the 1970s. No CGI, no digital trickery. One slip of the hand, and this horror movie could have turned into a documentary. Fact 2. The house was a real house, and it stank. That grimy farmhouse wasn't some Hollywood creation. It was a genuine rundown home deep in Texas. The crew decorated it with actual animal bones, old feathers, and meat that was truly rotting. In the sweltering heat, the smell was unbearable, clinging to clothes and hair. Some actors recalled gagging or stepping outside between takes just to breathe. The production designer literally went to slaughterhouses to gather decorations. If you thought the set just looked disgusting, know this. It was probably worse in person. Fact 3. Texas heat was pure misery. Filming took place during a brutal Texas summer with temperatures regularly topping 100 degrees. Leatherface's costume was made of heavy materials that trapped heat, sweat, and every awful smell from weeks of shooting. And here's the kicker. It was never washed. The sweat stains were real. The dirt was real. Gunnar Hansen admitted it was like wearing a personal oven. Combine that with rancid set dressing, and you've got a recipe for pure exhaustion. Fact 4. Leatherface had multiple looks. Think Leatherface had one scary face? Think again. Hansen wore 3 distinct masks during filming, each designed to show a different side of the character. One mask was for his killing persona, another for the infamous dinner scene, and the last, his so-called pretty woman mask, was used for moments where Leatherface wanted to appear more presentable. These masks were handcrafted from latex and painted to look like stitched human skin. Fact 5. The chainsaw chase was straight-up dangerous. The famous scene of Leatherface charging after Sally through the woods looks chaotic because it was. Hansen was sprinting at full speed in the dark with a running chainsaw. At one point, he tripped, and the blade was just inches from his own leg. They kept filming, because in this production, if no one was dead yet, the camera stayed rolling. Hansen chased Marilyn Burns over and over, sometimes so close she could feel the heat of the exhaust on her skin. Fact 6. The dinner scene was torture. The dinner scene is pure madness on screen, but behind the scenes, it was even worse. Shot over 27 straight hours, the cast sat shoulder to shoulder under blazing lights, surrounded by real rotting meat. The heat turned the food into a stinking, oozing nightmare. Actors became nauseous, tempers flared, and at least one person nearly fainted. Marilyn Burns was so emotionally and physically drained that her screams in the final cut weren't just acting, they were genuine desperation. What's the longest you've ever had to work without a break? Could you survive in 27 hours with rotting meat? Fact 7. Sometimes the blood was real. The special effects budget was practically non-existent. So in the scene where Leatherface cuts Sally's finger, Gunnar Hansen really nicked Marilyn Burns' skin so Grandpa could drink actual blood. She later said she was too tired and frustrated to argue by that point. She just let it happen. This wasn't the only time the film blurred the line between acting and real injury. Several cuts, bruises, and scrapes you see in the movie were totally real. Fact 8. The movie wasn't banned everywhere. It's horror lore that the movie was banned all over the world, but that's only partly true. While countries like the UK heavily censored it, Some local U.S. theaters pulled the movie entirely after audience members fainted or vomited. It wasn't just a horror film. It was a full-blown public spectacle. Fact 9. It cost less than a sports car. The entire movie was made for around $140,000, less than the cost of many modern sedans. That meant no extras like big crews or fancy trailers. The actors often doubled as stagehands, hauling equipment. Every corner cut meant more risk. Real weapons, real heat, and real danger. That tiny budget helped fuel the gritty, raw energy that made the movie unforgettable. Fact 10. Leatherface's roots were real-life horror. The character wasn't born entirely from fiction. Leatherface was loosely inspired by Ed Gein, a murderer and grave robber who crafted furniture and clothing from human remains. The chainsaw, however, was pure invention. Gein's crimes terrified America in the 1950s. Do you think the based on true events lie made the movie scarier back in 1974? Let us know. Fact 11. The meat hook scene was movie magic. One of the most infamous moments in horror history, Pam getting hung on a meat hook, wasn't quite as gory as it looked. Actress Terry McMinn was actually sitting on a hidden padded support under her shirt, positioned so her back lined up with the hook to sell the illusion. But this support wasn't comfortable at all. She had to hold perfectly still in an awkward position for hours in extreme heat, surrounded by the stench of the set. There was no relief between takes. Fact 12. There were no stunt doubles at all. In modern Hollywood, dangerous scenes are handled by trained professionals. In the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not so much. Every single dangerous moment, running through the woods in the dark, dodging swinging chainsaws, crashing into objects, was done by the actors themselves. No body doubles, no safety rehearsals, no protective gear. Mistakes often stayed in the final cut, adding to the chaotic, too real feel of the film. Fact 13. Leatherface's voice was improvised. Leatherface doesn't speak. He grunts, squeals, and makes unsettling noises. Gunnar Hansen came up with all of these sounds on his own, basing them on people he'd met who were nonverbal. He experimented with pitch, tone, and timing to make Leatherface seem unpredictable and animalistic. The result was a vocal performance that made the character more frightening without a single line of dialogue. Fact 14. It almost had the worst title ever. Before it became the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the movie's working title was Head Cheese. Yes, like the deli meat. For a while, it was seriously considered as the final title. Imagine walking up to a box office in 1974 and saying, "One ticket for Head Cheese, please." Thankfully, someone realized that didn't exactly scream terrifying slasher film. Fact 15. The narrator was paid in weed. The ominous voice that opens the movie belongs to John Larroquette, who was a complete unknown at the time. His payment for the job? Not money, not credit, just one marijuana joint. Larroquette has confirmed the story over the years, joking that it was the easiest payday of his career. What's the strangest payment you've ever accepted for a job? Fact 16. Based on true events. Was a lie. The opening narration claims the film is based on true events. It's not. But the idea was a clever marketing tactic by director Tobe Hooper to give audiences the sense they were watching something that really happened. By blurring the line between fact and fiction, Hooper made the film feel even more dangerous, and it worked. Fact 17. Marilyn Burns suffered for real. By the end of filming, Marilyn Burns, who played Sally, was physically and emotionally wrecked. She'd been chased through thorny brush, hit with debris, and tied to a chair for hours. Minor cuts and bruises from the shoot stayed on her skin for days. She later said that she didn't need to act scared in the final scenes. She genuinely was. Fact 18. Hansen kept his distance. To make Leatherface even more terrifying to the cast, Gunnar Hansen avoided talking to most of them off camera. He stayed in character's mindset and kept his distance. When they first saw him in full costume, mask, blood, and chainsaw, it was a genuine shock. The fear you see on their faces in those first encounters was totally real. Fact 19. The cameraman almost got sliced. In the movie's climactic chase, the camera operator had to film backwards while running. At one point, he tripped. Hansen swerved at the last second to avoid hitting him with the running chainsaw. It was such a close call that people on set still talk about it decades later. The raw chaos stayed in the final take. Fact 20. It became one of the most profitable horror films ever. Despite the grueling conditions, the tiny budget, and the constant risk of injury, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre became one of the most successful horror movies of all time. Made for $140,000, it went on to gross over $30 million, launching a franchise. It redefined what horror could be: raw, gritty, and utterly relentless. So there you have it. 20 facts that prove the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was just as horrifying behind the scenes as it was on screen. Which one gave you the creeps? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the weird, wild, and dangerous side of movie history.